Good morning. Hello. Today in our How Do I, we're going to talk about giving your threads dimension and loft with a brand new product. Now, the product is called the High Loft Dimensional Topping and Stabilizer, and this is from Floriani, and it's really cool. But you're probably thinking, giving my thread loft, well, that's what you use foam for. And you may have seen that previously. And this is something completely different. Okay, now as we go along, if you have any questions, please type them in, and we'd love to answer any questions that you have. So let's talk about the difference between this and foam. Okay, for one, this looks a lot like batting. In fact, I had a piece right here for you to kind of see. So it looks like batting, and it's really super soft. It actually almost feels like a bamboo. It's so soft. But if you can tell, it's even thicker than probably like Warm and Natural, and it's stiffer. So you might get it confused with felt, you know, a thick felt or something like that. But so keep it in the package so you always know what it is, because the properties of this is amazing. Now, you probably noticed that it says High Loft Dimensional Topping and Stabilizer. Toppers are normally not stabilizers because they're like a clear, you know, like the clear wash away or the heat and gone, things like that that are designed to just give your threads a nice surface to lay on top of, and then it goes away. All right, so this is a little different. This is so structurally sound that you actually could put this in the hoop and it would be a good stabilizer if you're wanting the high loft, not just for anything. You're not going to do this for everything. Personally, I prefer to use this in conjunction with a wet and gone stabilizer, you know, the wash away. I'll show you that in a minute. But the reason for that is because that's less expensive, and then I can put this in a targeted area. And there are exceptions, and I'll talk about that too. But let's talk about this in comparison to like puffy foam or the dimensional foam that you use, that you see on like men's ball caps that have those dimensional letters and things like that. That is a foam that you stitch over, and then it will perforate and you remove the excess. And then you use like a hair dryer, because it'll have little pokies sticking out of the foam, will be sticking outside the thread. So you use a hair dryer to heat it up, and then it shrinks and it pulls in. Okay, but you can't just use it with any font or any satin stitch, because he'll hang out the outside edge. It has to be digitized specifically to use that foam. And if you have the embellished software, then there's puffy foam letters in that. Okay, so then you can use those. So you just can't successfully use it with anything. This you can use with anything. And what's really cool about it, even though it's a really strong piece of fluff, and it's pretty dense, it is wash away, completely wash away. So this is going to give you dimension under the letters that you have. So like this is an OESD design, and it's really cute. And I'm hoping you can see take a look at the I love you. What if I tip it a little bit? Can you see the dimension, the raised bits that has? So what I did is, when it came time to sew out I love you, the details here in the white that's on the coffee cup, and then a latte, I then put the high loft topper right over top, and then I stitched these elements into the topper and already had the base done. Okay, so then that gives that the topper is dense enough to hold and leave space between your fabric and the top of the layer. And then when you wash it away, it leaves the thread in a raised position, which is really, really cool. And all I did was rinse this out. Okay. Now, if you're interested in seeing other applications, I thought this was really, really interesting. I got to find the top side. It said that you could use this for freestanding lace items. And I was like, what? So I thought I'd try it. And I did have this one marked so you could see that this is the original. I don't know, can you see if I put it in my dark jacket there? That's here. This is just on wash away. This is using the high loft topper. And look at how much more defined and luscious those satin stitches are when you use the high loft dimensional topper in a freestanding lace. So this was done strictly on the freestanding lace, or on the topper, and there's no fabric or anything in here.
So Diane's wondering, what keeps the topper from washing away under the thread?
It does wash away. That's a good question, Diane. It absolutely does wash away. And why don't we look at that since Diane brought it up. Here is just a bowl of water, and I'm going to just cut myself a piece of my scrap. Okay, so this does, you know what I did not bring? I did not bring myself a paper towel, so you know it's going to get messy here. But so this is the topper here, you know, and then if we put it in, it doesn't look like anything is happening, but in just a couple of seconds, you're going to see it start there. It's starting to melt. Look at that. And it just turns, it just goes away. And it's safe for septic systems and everything like that. It has a cornstarch base to it. Oh, it's getting on me. It's getting sticky on it. So it's safe for your pipes and everything like that. So it does wash away. And then I think what Diane, probably her follow-up question would be, so tell me if I'm wrong, Diane, is then how on earth does the thread stay up there? And the answer is magic. I don't know, but the thread remains nice and raised on the top. But look how fast that went away. So it did not take any time at all to for this to rinse out. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so now I thought I would show you really quick how you use this. So I've stitched out my design. I don't know if you can see, I've stitched them all out. Now I'm ready for I love you, a latte, and the detail around the foam on the coffee cup. So I have my design here, and I'm going to show you a couple of things because I actually stitched this out at home last night. Okay, so I put it in the hoop for this because for some reason, I don't know why, but I don't have every single machine at my house. But anyway, so I did just put this in the hoop today. I used a fabric marker, a wash away fabric marker to mark my horizontal and vertical centers. And I like to use this one. This is a clover. It's the fine point, but then you also have the standard or wider point, and then you have one that has an eraser built in. These are all good choices, so whichever one you like. Some people don't care for the thin because they like a thicker line, but I did do that, and then I realigned it with the nubbins on the hoop. But we're going to double check that, and I'm going to turn on the projector on the machine so we can make sure that we have it in the right spot. So I can see, if I look right here, I can see that little loop should be on top of that loop there, and you can kind of see on the left-hand side, see how the little steam doesn't match my steam. So I'm going to move it over until it matches, and then I know that I'm in the right spot. I didn't do too bad getting it realigned. However, you know, you can't always be perfect, right? Okay.
Diane said that was the question, is how does it stay lofty? So
it's magic. I don't know. It's just magic. Okay, so all right, so now I'm going to go ahead and take myself down in the colors down to my latte. Okay, there's my latte, and I actually need to push my thread the needle button. And now, oops, and I didn't get it threaded. I have it caught on I have my bits and pieces caught. Okay, so I'm going to thread that needle. Then before I sew, I'm going to get this in place. And for some reason, I did not get my needle threaded. So that I'm just making, you know, it feels like a Monday if your needle doesn't thread, doesn't it? Okay. Let me try. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way for sake of time because I'm not going to sit here and fight with my machine. Which, funny thing, when you have all these lights on you, you can't see the eye of the needle at all. Okay, so before we stitch that out, I know that this part in here is going to say, I love you, you know, up here. So I want my fluff to go all the way up there. And so I basically need to just cover the design. I'm going to use my pink tape, which is also called the Embroidery Perfection tape. I think they should have named it pink tape because that's far more descriptive. Anyway, okay, and then I'm just going to start stitching. And then once it gets going, I will trim my tail since I did not, there we go, since I didn't have a short tail on that. Okay, so then we're going to just let that go, and then it's going to go ahead and stitch. Now, since that was covering this whole thing, before I rinsed this out, I went ahead and trimmed around it so I wasn't washing out a huge amount of it. So that's just something to bear in mind. And if you're frugal, if I was only doing this part or just this part, then I would only put a scrap and I would trim the rest off and I would save it for the next time. So yeah, this is a standard design. Nothing was done to it except for at this point, when it was ready to sew out these items, I put the high density or the high loft stabilizer under it. And with the lace, I didn't do anything there except for just lay that right on top. And you can see the difference in that satin stitch. See how thin, well, that's the back side, hold on. See how thin that looks compared to how nice and luscious it looks there. So, and then that was just the wash away stabilizer, just the standard Wet and Gone. We all have this in our sewing room, or we should, because this is just a staple. And this washes out just like what I showed you. Only this is the one that goes in the hoop. Okay, any questions there? Okay, all right, so let's keep going. Let's take a look at a couple other things that we can do. Once you have your item done and it's dry, I hung it to dry, okay, and then I want to give it a good press. So from the back side, we're going to press it, because if we press from the front, if you ever press embroidery designs from the front, you run the risk of crushing the threads. And since we have this loft, we don't want it crushed, right? So that's another reason for using a wool pressing pad. So we just lay this down on the back and then press from the back side and get this nice and flat. And what's going to happen is that the wool has give to it, so your thread will go down into the wool, it will sink down, and then you'll have the dimension maintained. Another thing that you might want to do if you don't have a wool pressing mat is to use an OESD press cloth. Now this definitely looks more like your warm and natural batting because it's ivory, so don't get it confused. A lot of people will mark on it not batting, but this has a thickness to it and it's perfect for pressing onto and gives you a surface that you can press so your stitches don't get crushed. Okay?
So Reva, another question came in. Francis wants to know, if you wash out all the stabilizer, if the lace will get floppy, how do you get it to go stiff again? Will it lose its shape?
That's a great question. If you're doing a freestanding lace piece, like maybe a freestanding lace house or a lace pumpkin, something like that, you want to have it have some structure. So if you rinse it so good that it's really super duper soft, then if you want to make it stiff again, when you're doing a project like this or another one, rinse off the stabilizer, the Wet and Gone or the High Loft in your water, reserve that, and then you can put it back into, you can re-soak your lace. So if this was to be on a pumpkin, it's not going to hold. So I would want some more stiffness added back into this. So you could simply use kind of just the water that has the stabilizer in it. Okay, so that's one way to stiffen it back up. Okay, so as you can see, we've got this one, the latte, done. Really simple. It doesn't take any extra time. It doesn't do anything different. But when we wash it out, we're going to get that nice dimensional look to it. Okay, so that's really fun. And again, no special design. It's simply a design from OESD, which is really pretty cool. So you probably have designs that you can take and do things with. Okay, so now let's talk really quick about our little hand towels. So this is that's the center of the hand towel here. Okay, so it's going to hang, if you have this in your kitchen, it's going to hang like that. So that's really kind of a nice placement for that. And what I did is I simply found where the center of the hanging, what's going to be visible when it's hung, and then that's where I marked my center lines. And this gives us a nice amount of space at the bottom should you want to decorate it. If you don't want to decorate it, you might want to have this a little lower. Okay, but if I wanted to maybe take some fabric, and this is just a fat quarter, maybe I want to run a band of fabric across the bottom, or maybe I want to use that as have a double trim. Wouldn't that be really cute? You could have that, and then you can always take ribbon and you can have that adorn one edge or another. So it's really, really simple to really decorate up your towels, and you have a beautiful gift. And it is coming up on the holidays. We're going to be going over to people's homes, or there's people that we care about, maybe the secretary at the doctor's office that you really love, or maybe the librarian, whoever it might be. This is a real fun way to do a gift and make it really, really simple, but do something really cute. So what I would do if I was going to be doing this particular one on here is I'd find out the size that I want my band to be, and then over at the edge of the towel, I would flip it under so there's the folded edges all match. So that way it has a finished edge. Okay, and then just find some ribbons, find some fabrics. I'm sure you have some extra fabric at home. I don't know about you, but there's usually a small piece or two hanging around, right? And you can always, if you just did a red, white, and blue quilt, you could always choose your designs to match the fabric scraps that you have. So I think you're going to really like using this. Again, it's called the High Loft Dimensional Topping and Stabilizer. We're really excited that this is here. We first learned about it in February, and it's taken since then for us to be able to get it in our hands, and it's really pretty cool. So I think you're going to really enjoy using it. And if you have any more questions, just put them in the chat and we'll look at that as we go along. But other than that, we will see you next week.